and welcome back to our next panel, Installer Best Practices, No Mass Market Without the Small Players. For this panel, we are happy to invite Jan Ossenbrink. Jan is the founder of Vamo, a company with a mission to make green, affordable heating and heat pumps uncomplicated and possible for everyone. He's worked with leading organizations such as McKinsey, General Electric, Lufthansa, and PwC. A recognized expert in clean energy, he specializes in renewables, batteries, grids, and clean transport, focusing on EV charging infrastructure, electric drives, and fuel cells. We are also welcoming back Eleonora Potestio. Eleonora is the head of EU distribution project management at Sungrow Europe. She has advanced through various roles at Sungrow since 2020, including product manager and technical sales engineer. She specializes in renewable energy, sustainability, and environmental awareness, contributing to innovative energy solutions in Europe. We're also very happy to have her back as an expert after we welcomed her to speak on our podcast season 2, What's Up with Interoperability? Then we also have gridX's own Max Witke. Max is an account executive here where he leverages his expertise in innovative e-mobility and energy technology solutions to drive business growth. With a strong commitment to advancing the energy transition, he utilizes gridX's cutting-edge software platforms to empower clients. Max brings extensive experience in business development and project management, having founded his own companies and worked with various innovative tech firms. And joining us, hopefully a little bit later, will be Stefan Binzel. Stefan is the managing director at Denzis PV5. He completed his industrial engineering degree with a focus on electrical engineering at TU Darmstadt in 2007 and began his career at PwC, where he gained experience in financial due diligence, M&A, and restructuring consulting. He joined Denzis in 2011 and has served as the managing director since 2013. So thank you to all of you for joining me today. And actually just jumping right in, if I can start with Eleonora, what obstacles does the HEMS market face when incorporating installers, and how does the installer size in terms of resources, finance, etc., impact this entry?
Great. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you for the question. Also for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I think also addressing this topic that at the moment also for us is becoming very crucial and very important. I think at the moment, the main obstacles, or maybe let's call them challenges that I would like to highlight are definitely the integration complexity. And we really see that we have many EMS solutions really need to work seamlessly with a variety of existing energy systems. So we've seen in the past PV, we've seen batteries, but now we see also more strong entering of the EV chargings on the market as well as smart appliances. So really when scaling up, all of these technologies together really requires a big effort. And to really overcome a bit this complexity, I think we need to put a lot of focus and attention on how we can integrate with very many factors in an easy way, especially when we have maybe different players that have different protocols, different technologies, and therefore really merging a bit them all together are quite a big challenge. Adding on that, I think we also have a high upfront cost and manpower in this field. We're seeing this market really growing very strongly, and scaling up these EMS solutions really require also a lot of investments, both on hardware side and software side, I would say. So this is definitely also a second challenge. Of course, in the end, another extra challenge that we are seeing is regulatory and compliance as well as a main challenge. The reason is that at the moment we're expanding in new regions, maybe in new features that are required from the market. And of course, maybe each of the players have some ideas of how we can do that quickly, how we could do that efficiently. And then we also have to make sure that we follow and follow exactly the requirements that the regulatory put in place. So in the end, how do we solve all of these challenges? I think the main topic here is how can both big players and small players a bit work together and solve all of these challenges that we have ahead. I think what the objective is that each partner can give and put something on the plate, and depending on what it has to offer. So big players, maybe big manufacturers like us, can maybe bring these resources, can bring influence, can also help in quick developments. And at the same time, small players can then really help us also by providing detailed market requirements, feedback from customers. So really, I would say building a double way collaboration where both big players and small players can help each other and bring a bit what is their strength in this change of dynamic in the EMS sector, I would say.
Nice. And then, Jan, in your opinion, what are the technical barriers that impact installers, especially when it comes to smart energy management? How can this knowledge sharing between partners improve project outcomes?
Well, also let me say or preface this by saying thanks a lot for the invitation. What a great event! What a great lineup of speakers and content. Happy to speak for the small installers, which we are one of them still today. So to your question, so what are the key barriers impact us? If I look at energy management, it's just the sheer number of different approaches and solutions that are currently out there, right? I mean, it was written in your own report. I think you mentioned 140 different systems that are out there on the market right now.
Mhm.
So, I mean, for a, let's say, VC funded, atypical installer like Vamo, we have people here who look at this, right? We have product managers and so on. They screen the market. They also try to position ourselves in that market. That is something that the typical installer, the local installer, the 5 to 25 people company cannot do. So I think what they do is they go with what works, right? And they also, I think, quite sticky when it comes to having found a solution that works for them, that provides sufficient customer value, and they continue, selling that and providing that to their customers. And I think when it comes to the technical barriers that we currently see is that the highly dynamic and emerging space, the players, the approaches, the solutions differ, and it's really hard to keep an overview, right? And I think your report is really helpful in having a map and understanding how big the space is and how where it's evolving. So please keep those reports coming. I think they're very helpful. And then secondly, I think what you could continue to do is also provide basically a compatibility list. Yeah, not only between different HEMS systems, because I think there will also be EMS systems that work in combination, right? And we are the heat pump guys, and there might be the EV charging guys, and there might be the battery and solar PV guys, and they need to speak to one another. And I don't see a world where you have this one super EMS managing everything, but where we, as an industry, move towards standardization, right? Which is clearly what we don't see at the moment. Really, it's this emergence of new solutions, and I think there will be an aggregation and also some players failing over time, and there will be a convergence of standards, of solutions, and so on. And right now, we are really in the middle of this plethora of different approaches. And once again, our take as a small installer is that we participate in these events, we learn, we look at solutions always with the customer value in the back of our head, and also the other installers that are part of our network in the back of our head. And then the general approach that we adopt, and that is also contrary to some of the other approaches we see in the market, we see ourselves as following an Android approach, right? Our heat pumps, and we are multi OEM provider, right? Our heat pumps are supposed to be friends with everybody, right? So we like to be open to every kind of, may there be a master EMS like a gridX system or an integrated EMS solution into the inverter, into the battery system, or let's say a large consumer EMS inside the wall box. We are open to all of this. We are observing, and what we want to provide to our customers is really the best that's in the market. And yeah, we are super, super happy to continue learning.
Nice. And then, Max, my next question is for you. How can installers prepare for future challenges such as changing market demands or evolving regulatory requirements while still maintaining growth?
Yeah, thank you so much. Also, thank you for having us here. It's so nice to be here with so many smart people and discussing all these super important topics. But coming to your question, yeah, I would say the environment in which small installers or all sizes of installers work in the moment are super challenging. On one hand side, we have really pressure on the
Nope. I think we have lost Max at the moment. But Eleonora and Jan, can you still hear me? You're both okay.
Yes.
Okay. um, let me then, at the moment, jump to the next question. And this would actually be for Eleonora then. In your opinion, what do you believe are the best practices for all installers to improve energy security and grid reliability in their projects?
So, of course, this is a very important point and focus for really putting the efforts in the right place. I would say on how to provide this grid stability and, of course, also independence. I think, as also we touched point a bit before, the main objective would be to really have all the stakeholders a bit work very well together, understand each other needs, and really strengthen the collaboration, because I think solutions are sometimes not only in one stakeholder, but the solutions need to be also have a common ground and need to have a lot of interactions between different stakeholders in the field. So definitely understanding what is affecting maybe the reliability, what is affecting the pushing the energy transition, of course, pushing also the better functioning of this in the energy field, and therefore find also some common solutions that could really help everyone kind of go a bit to the second level, I would say. So that's for me the really crucial point: collaboration among all the stakeholders that we have. I think what also Jan has mentioned earlier, the problem at the moment is really about the framework. There's sometimes some confusions which directions we're going, which action can be taken to solve those issues, and if we don't kind of have a common ground there, I think it will be more challenging for everyone, because we are running around finding our own solutions, which then in the end does not offer a good outlook, I would say, for any of us who's working at the moment in this term.
Nice. And Jan, as a smaller installer, do you have anything to add to that?
Classical case of double mute. Yeah, I mean, it's really important to visualize that. What does small installer mean? Small installer normally means that those are really reliant 100% on the domestic market. Yeah, so what Eleonora basically has, and what you guys at gridX have, obviously, is a multi-market perspective, and therefore, like, the collaboration with between the local installers and the bigger players, especially the OEM providers, and I would count the EMS providers clearly also as OEMs, yeah, even though they are also cloud solutions where you don't have hardware, but in any case, they are a tech company, and they always have to develop products that work for different markets. Yeah, and this is also important when it comes to innovation at the grid edge. If there's one innovation that just works in one geography, in one small market, it might be nice for the market, but I think Sungrow and gridX and others are not going to, mass produce something that is only working in a niche. And therefore, putting that aside, it's still important to visualize that the small installers, they only typically are active in their market. So they know their market, and frankly, they don't care whether something also works in Spain or in Portugal or in the Nordics and so on. They want to have something that works for their local content and that works perfectly. And therefore, you have this clear trade-off with the local installers being on the ground, having most of the context richness, and then the solutions that need to work for different geographies and markets. And clearly, this is a trade-off where I can only say we are super open to sharing what we see on the ground, right? Sharing what happens and what works in our geographies that we are active in. Notwithstanding that in the end, if you want to go for scalable solutions and approaches, you need something that works across markets.
Nice. And it looks like we have Max back. Max, I think you were cut off in the middle of your answer before. Do you want to?
Sorry, my internet connection got lost at home. Yeah.
Do you want to continue with what you were saying earlier?
Sure, thank you. So, of course, I can repeat what I said. Your question was about the challenges of small installers, and I want to say that as I'm working a lot with small installers in the moment, doing a lot of research, we see that the environment in which small installers are working are quite challenging in the moment. So, on one hand side, there are the pockets of the people who are under pressure in the moment, but also the political environment is super challenging. I don't want to think about last Wednesday in the United States and Germany. And so the environment in which small installers or the political surrounding on which they can rely or not is changing all the time. And that's why my message to small installers is clearly become robust. And play the game safe in the moment, because it's you cannot rely on this constant growth and a constant market. You have to always be able to adapt. But on the other hand side, as all of the sectors are switching to electricity, mobility, heating, everything, there will be so much to do in the future. But as I mentioned, political environment is changing, so we know it will come on one point, but it won't be a just linear straight growth. You have to be adaptable, and this is what small installers should really be capable of being adaptable to these waves in the market, ups and downs. And but there is huge potential, and that can make them grow. I'm pretty sure about this, but not straight, not simple.
Nice. Actually, going off of that, this question is still for you. Online training is very common nowadays, as we know, but is it suitable for workforce training and enabling all installers to understand and implement new technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. We are also doing some researches and compare offline trainings and online trainings. And what we see is, of course, just just as I had online communication can be complicated sometimes. But of course, when installers, we see every hour they spend not working, they don't earn money, and they have to really be absolutely effective. And this is the good thing about online trainings. They are effective. You don't have to drive with your whole company to a certain place somewhere and spend the whole day just to learn how you collect one device. But when you have a good mixture of online trainings which show you the basics, maybe give you the good sales arguments for sales trainings, online trainings are totally enough. You don't need to go anywhere to learn how to sell something. And when you add to this good technical documentation and all the things installers need in their practical life, then you can save them a lot of time. And this is what the life of an installer is about. Use your time effective to install, because this is what brings you money.
Yeah. Eleonora, in European markets such as Germany, regional distributors and installers play a crucial role in helping homeowners adopt clean energy technologies. Is this also the case in other countries that Sungrow operates in? How does Sungrow adapt its distribution strategy to cater to different market structures and the roles of local players across Europe?
Absolutely. I think regional distributors and installers are essential if we really want to push forward this market. And this we're doing, of course, not only in Germany, but more or less everywhere where we are active in Europe. I think as one of the biggest manufacturer, we, of course, need to work with global players. That's, undeniable. I think at the same time, we really have a focus to develop also regional partners. This for us is also very important because they play a pivotal role in providing sometimes something that big players actually cannot provide. I think also before we were talking about big to really have those big resources, but at this market needs. And therefore working with regional distributors and installers sometimes help us also put focus on topics that maybe when looking at the whole Europe, we are not really putting our efforts in. So although I must say for us it's very challenging because you have really very specific market needs, very diverse end customers, very diverse features that are necessary to implement. And this is really what is necessary to be done if we really want to have a strong impact on this transition. Also, many also climate changes in our society. So I think also as also the work of transmitting this information by all this information is passed on by regional people of people everywhere and users, installers, and it's when it comes maybe from bigger companies that are maybe quite far away from that end user. So I would say yes, regional distributors still play a major role in changing a bit the landscape that we are in at the moment. So this then partnerships provide all our training really close to them to go. So those also small company doing the hard work in the market.
Okay. Your sound cut off just for a bit towards the end, but I think I understood what you were saying. Jan, what role do you see larger companies playing in supporting small installers to navigate complex regulations and market entry challenges? Is this something you've come across at all?
At least they are trying. So the question is like, I mean, obviously there's just a flower pot of different, let's say, different installation companies that would fall under the umbrella of small installers, right? So I mean, small installers could mean, a man in the van or two guys in the van up until 20, 50, 100 installers. They are still small, right, compared to the larger players. And I think that yes, there definitely is a huge potential for knowledge sharing, for sharing how to navigate regulation. However, if I say small or if I hear small, I also hear agile. And I think this is what Max mentioned before, right? So we are definitely, able to adapt more quickly because we also lack the overhead, so fast decision making speed. And this also applies to some of our peer group who was very, very quick and quicker than the bigger players when it comes to, for example, how to navigate the new, heat pump subsidy. Yeah, there still is big questions out there that haven't been answered by KfW, so the subsidy provider. Now, there's two ways to basically approach this. Either the risk-averse way, for example, with our OEMs, we install a lot of heat pumps from Wiesmann and from Weiland, and they obviously try to help us navigate the new subsidy scheme. However, we were much faster in finding that out by having a more, or less risk averse, I would say, a bit more risky approach, by just trying stuff out and seeing what comes back from the customer and from the KfW. And therefore, I would be cautious about, saying, the big guys can always help the smaller guys. Sometimes it's also the opposite. What is definitely the case is and I think Max mentioned that as well, is really, training, coming up with manuals, coming up with, stuff that just involves overhead, right? In the positive sense, where you just need, to invest fixed costs to have a product or a service that is more scalable, more stable, sorry. And therefore, I think this is something that where you naturally you need size, you need scale, and that is something that typically, at least the smaller installers, are not capable of, because they don't have the hundreds of thousands or let alone millions of euros on their bank accounts to make these kind of investments. So therefore, I think it's highly complementary, actually. But yeah.
Okay, and actually, going off of that, Max, in what ways do you think that larger companies can mentor smaller installers to help them scale their operations and adopt new technologies effectively?
Yeah, I think many things are said already. But yeah, the bigger companies, of course, small installers are quite, I would say, many of them are quite conservative, and what they want is reliability. And when we as OEMs push in the market solutions for the current topics, and really say, okay, with these with these products, with these features, you are able to answer today's questions, and this works reliable, and it's not just as everything else changing all the time. I would say this is something bigger players can help. And when you compare small and big installers, of course, they somehow, of course, play against each other, and I don't know if they can really help each other so much. They're playing the same market field, and yeah. So I would really say it's the bigger companies who bring products into these markets must really go the first step to answer questions of the today's world, like regulations and things like this.
And then, Eleonora, not to put you on the spot as the kind of representation of the big installer on this panel, but how would you answer that question? Like, do you see large companies as having a role to mentor the smaller installers?
Well, definitely yes. I think this is should also be our role, especially because we have also maybe the resources, we have extra teams, we can be a bit out there also sharing this information. And this in the end is not only about mentoring but helping a bit the field as well. So we also get back from having this role within the energy field. So if we are training the installers very well, if we are training our partners very well, they know our products, they install it correctly, in the end we then benefit from it because all the market is growing also together with us. So I would say yes, this is definitely part of our role, and at least that's also what we're trying to do, because I think it can help also us in the long run. So I would say that's the way to go.
Nice. And we have a question from the audience. To some degree, installers are the gatekeepers or the influencers for homeowners to get a HEMS. How can we enable them to convince end customers, and what tools do they need? Maybe direct this one to Jan.
So I'm just reading the question again, because the question is like, how can we, who is we, and enable them? So the customers or the other installers, right? Because if you direct the question to Max or to Eleanor, I think the outcome would be different. But let me try to get a step at this and see how I define the question. So I think, yes, not in some cases, I think in most cases, especially with more complex products like the heat pumps, we clearly own the customer interface as an installer, right? We have the knowledge, we have the expertise, we are on the front lines, and we talk to them and we do the consulting. Yes, there's dedicated energy consulting companies today as well that have emerged, but I think so. From our experience in the field, especially with heat pumps, they have no clue what they are talking about. To be frank, okay. So we have to retrain or actually re-educate the customer, and this is something that is barely scalable because every customer more or less has the same questions pertaining to heat pumps, at least currently. And we know that, therefore we have built a sales engine that is actually scalable enough, and where we also have AI agents that will be deployed from next year onward to at least answer the standard questions right away, because obviously 80% of the questions are always the same. Now, coming back to the HEMS point, yes, we normally are supposed to provide clear advice where to go, depending on where the customer stands, right? So some of our customers start with the heat pump, right? Obviously, they know that there's something called solar PV and batteries and also a wall box. Yeah, and what we do, but we are particular in that regard. We also do the consulting for those devices, even though we have clearly said, and this will be the case in the next years to come. We will only focus on the heat pump. And all of our heat pumps have an EMS system included. All of our heat pumps are on live, and we can monitor them, and we do monitor them on a minute resolution. Now, the customer's question, and this is where the education part comes in, is okay. Now, this is technically appealing. What do I get from it, right? Why should I go for it? And then for the heat pump, we can clearly say, well, three things. Our heat pumps last longer because we monitor them continuously. Secondly, we know they don't break, right? So there's no outages, no disturbances, because we see if there's something, of an issue, coming up. We do predictive maintenance. So we send maintenance teams before actually an error occurs. That's the second value pool or value dimension. And the third one is clearly efficiency, which translates into more money into your pocket. This is how we basically go about telling customers how to get what a HEMS is for, and where we clearly say our approach is Android. It doesn't matter whether you have a Sungrow inverter or an SMA inverter or what kind of ever box you have in there, or you already have a gridX solution. We want to be compatible, and it's our job to make sure that our system, so the heat pump, is compatible. And this is how we go about it. Notwithstanding that, we always keep on telling the customer, this is a highly emerging space, and there's many new solutions coming up at the moment, and solutions and the compatibility list will change. We're also honest about that. And therefore, I think 2 or 3 years from now, we will see a more concentrated market where we have like the clear 5 to 10 winners that are standardized and compatible or not compatible, right? There's also Apple approaches in the market, as we all know. So let's see where this is going. But this is clearly our approach. We own the customer interface. It's our responsibility to educate the customer, and we do.
Nice. And then Max or Eleonora, do you have anything to add to that?
If it's okay, I would like to add something, or specify something, because it's super good what you say. I totally agree, and I would go a bit more in detail to this, because our market research is really showing that the installer is the gatekeeper, the trusted technician on site for the private person who installs all these assets at home. And the private person is never able to have an overview of all the market, all that's going on there. And when we want to make a real sustainable change to renewable energies, then we have to explain the end customer the real value of it. And the good news is that, especially when we speak about HEMS, there are some real, even monetary values for the end customer. In Germany, for example, when we speak about the paragraph 14a, I don't want to go in detail here, but for the Germans, they know that you can reduce your grid fee by being steerable. And this is so complex. Even for us, it's hard to understand all of it. And when the installer is able to simplify this message and go out and say, hey, when you put this and this and these assets, and you be able to work with these paragraphs and all of this, then on one hand side that's good for our grid, but it's also good for your pocket. And when he's able to transport this message, then because he's the trusted person on site, then this can really work. If he's not believing in it himself or herself, then it's get hard because when the trusted person is denying the value, then that's problematic, and that's why the installer really is the gatekeeper here.
Or if they simply don't know, right? Just to add.
Oh, even that.
Nice. And
Yeah, maybe also from my side, I really strongly agree also what Max says. I think we have, of course, those customers that know very well what their needs are and what they would like to implement. But I would say most of the times we have many end users that maybe install the PV plant because their friends have it, or they've heard that maybe they could do some savings. But really fully understanding what are the benefits, they are not part of this field. They don't have the technical knowledge. So I think installers have also a bit this role to sometimes maybe showcase the different solutions, weigh the different options, and then give information to make sure that then the end user can make the choice based on what they need and what convinced them the most.
okay. Max, what innovations in EMS technology are most accessible and beneficial for installers to adopt today?
Yeah, I think this super adds to the discussion we just had before. So I would say the world of EMS is super changing in the moment. So energy management systems in general, or home energy management systems, they were really limited to local optimization or grid protection, and the value of these is obviously limited. And now, due to all the regulations and dynamic tariffs and steerability, the energy management system, or the home energy management system, really gets in the center as like the connector of worlds. I would tell it. Yeah, it connects all these different types of sectors, mobility, heating, all these things. They come together in one piece, and there is where you can attach and provide scalability, can provide steerability. And so when you make this right, and when you connect these central brain out to the energy world, and to the heating world, and to all the sectors, then you can create values which the sector alone wouldn't be able to. And this is what the core value, the core understanding is. And these innovations should be transported to small installers, because when they know how this works, when they get the innovation, the values of it, and transport it to the end customers, and then they also can profit themselves from these innovations. But it's really in addition to what we just discussed.
Nice. And then to bring the panel to a close, my last question will actually be for Eleonora. What are some of the specific challenges in installing PV systems that work in an intelligent way with other assets?
And I think this is a good summary to our discussions today. I think we've discussed about many players in the field, working maybe on different solutions because of different market needs. So I would say those are the main challenges that we are experiencing so far. As because it really adds on a layer of complexity in how we need to make everything work together. How can this PV system integrate with smart homes, EV chargings, and all other solutions? I would like to bring back a bit to the framework and the regulation that we were discussing before, as I think this is maybe something that can really help and solve all of these challenges. The reason is also because if there are some in place companies follow one same regulation. It also that are working this year to follow lines that in the end helps us everyone because it makes it just quicker and also with the collaboration between each other. Of course, that does not mean then let only the authorities do up the work and leave them a bit alone in creating the regulations that are needed for the market. Because I think in many cases we've seen that sometimes regulation can also be counterproductive, which is absolutely not what we want. So I think also from our side, from the different players in the market, would be also to participate in this regulation drafting, participating in working groups to really shape a bit the regulation that we need to work within, and therefore, try to find an answer a bit all together on how to solve these challenges and which is the best way to do it. So I would say regulation is really the key here if we really want to take it to the next level.
Nice. Well, yeah, I think that's a great way to close out the panel. So thank you to all of you for joining me this afternoon.
Could I add one sentence, if I may?
Yeah.
Because I think, sorry for taking the final words from Eleonora, but I really wanted to double down on that and also leave with the call to action, because I think we have 3 Edison moments happening in our grid at the same time currently. So the first one being we have distributed solar, meaning generation, meaning the prosumer age starting, right? And across segments, by the way. Secondly, we have the digitization layer, right? So you can monitor electricity on a very high, temporal spatial resolution for the first time in history. And third, we are electrifying not only heating, but talking for Vamo, especially heating. And this happens for the first time in 100 years of our power grid. So we are completely changing the paradigm of our power system at the moment. And I think what unites the speakers today here, but also the listeners and the rest of the other panels, is clearly we are innovating on the grid edge. And I think there's different roles to be played. There's a huge cake that is emerging, and obviously different players go after different pieces of this cake. But it's really important to point out what Eleonora mentioned. We have to also reshape and act together as one voice when it comes to the new rules that make sure it's a fair play at the grid edge, because there are still very big forces with very big pockets trying to make this grid edge and this distribution topic or distributed energy topic be as small as possible, because they earn money with the centralized old grid paradigm, right? So I really want to point that out. And also the call to action for me would be to go a step further from Eleonora. We need a grid edge coalition. We need to break down the barriers between distributed solar, distributed storage, distributed, wall box and EV charging, distributed smart heating. No, we have to speak as one when it comes to grid edge. That should be our common coalition and what we should advocate for, because this is where the future and also the money lies, right? Because this is where the consumers are located.
Nice. Well, thank you all for joining us. This has been very educational for me, and I hope the viewers too. And for our viewers, we will be right back with our last panel for the day.